So I want to read from stuff of this past year, beginning though with reading from a very fat poem called Calls. Calls. And when you hear the word call, if you're a Hebraist, you think of call with the meaning of all and the meaning of voice and all those different things. If you're a German, you hear cowl. If you're a Scot, you hear call. But it's just C-A-L-L, that's calls. And it's a poem which is a long poem, which is the fifth in a series of a cycle of long poems that began about a decade ago. And this is the last of them. And it will be published, I think, this very month by the Luna Chandelier Cooperative. And I want to read the first one, just to give you a sense of how it starts, because it has... Can you hear me back there? Yes, no? Say. More or less? More or less. I'll try. I start loud and then die, the way it is. Here's how the poem begins. Trees don't walk. Hylonoetic manifesto. Trees talk. Trees think in us. That's how they get around. We speak their mind. As we hear them, each thing speaks its own dialect of thought. The manyness of them at work in us, signs from afar that reach us, teach us the long sermon of a stick of wood. The notion of hylonoetic, that is, that matter thinks, that matter is not just alive, like the hylozoists believe, but conscious, sentient, you might say. This poem was actually not written this year, but was finished. That's why I want to read it, just a couple of pieces, because finishing it was the big achievement at the beginning of the year. Here's one more section from it, section 139. It's a bit longer. Get the page to turn. Okay. No, I'll skip to this one. 158. That's what I'm. Can we be red and not be blood? Shakespeare wrote Shakespeare, but Georg Cantor thought otherwise. He, beyond the numbers, thought Bacon did it. And he was wrong, but right to be wrong, because if there are transfinite numbers, there are transfinite facts. Begin by doubting what everybody knows. Crack consensus open and see what still holds. He must have thought, as Kimberly Lyons and Joseph Sommer think Edward de Vere wrote Hamlet. And did Melville think so too? His starry Vere, captain of his final ship, not beyond conjecture, their motto. Don't believe what everybody says, and just by doing so, you're halfway home. But home might be a strange place, for all my loves are lesbians, and I would have it so, to turn back from my natural thing and soak the sky with bleaching doubt and see if the sun still comes out, that ordinary thing by which we live. Maybe Mexico was right. There is a black sun beyond the white. the yellow thing, the truth. So Cantor must have reasoned there is a truth beyond the truth. But I've gotten all this wrong. This is just machinery inside my fugue, the animal that scurries behind the garage, clandestine marriages, births unregistered, dowries paid in kind, a witch in a tree. We are three, the lie, the truth, and it. Beyond the implications of roses or the smell of words, in saddlebags they brought it from the east, but when they tore them open, it was gone. Edward de Vere was the Earl of Oxford, that some people believe wrote that man we don't read anymore. Let's see. The next big project of this year, in the spring, was one I called Inside In. We're all familiar with Inside Out, but imagine turning something inside in. There's more Gil Cantor at work, I suspect, but the turning of something in and upon itself further in. I want to read a few sections. This was arranged in days, over a number of days that I wrote the piece. And let's see, where are they? So I'm reading from day 7? Day 7. And I'll just read a few sections. They're very short sections. I'll start with section 3, jump to 5, and read to 10. Why do I need to know the things I know, or think I do? Couldn't someone else know them for me, and I go back to sleep? Mere being here? Why don't I know that with all I know? I jump to 5. I'm trying to hold myself together. No, they are holding me together. The forces, the wind, storm cloud, the protectors, the ones who think all grief away. Sappho's Venus, impatient with her poet's clamor. What is it this time? What is bothering you now? I yearn to thank whoever it is you are. Jump to 7. Grieving as if none too solid, never the river, never for the equestrian to clamor her Lipizzana over, because some sea is close, and pages from all the books flutter in the damp wind. Gull, gull, do you hear with me the tragedy unfolding? All the Annas, all the Bovarys, and in the snug cafe back home, I write a book in schoolboy French. Because everything is too far for me, too close for you. We make a good team on the radio, say 70 years ago. GIs listened to us on shortwave, making out with Fräuleins, unfiltered cigarettes, paper mail. How dumb we were, and glad to be. But this is now, and now? Now is all the distances we are. Close the door, then close the door. The air outside is good for you, and things are singing out there, remarkably like your heart. Poor birdie. So close the door, then close the door. Or be the feast we famine for. All white you are, like empty notebooks. All black you are, like urgent ink. trying to spell one more Bible into us, something we hunger for, something maybe like music you can actually hear. That was from day 7 of Inside In. You're getting a lot of long poems inside, bits of them. So the work of the early summer, the late summer was all wrecked by sickness, so I have less to show for this year than usual. You're spared. The work of the early summer is a poem called, a cycle of poems called The Caprices. And I see people standing. I wish you were more comfortable. Sorry. The Caprices. I was thinking of Goya's Los Caprichos and Caillo's Caprice, things like that, which were essentially sarcastic, quick images. These are not sarcastic, but my notion was, why not let what comes to mind speak? Why do I have to sit down as poets, and as writers, not necessarily poets, writers have traditionally done for centuries and said, I have an idea, I will now work this idea out, point A, B, C, D, E, and go through it and plan it. And why is that demonic Lutheran school teacher standing there in my mind, telling me how to speak, when the mind itself might have something to say? Anyway, so the epigraph to the Caprices was to keep faith with what comes to mind. Just treat that as if it meant something, and maybe it will. I'll read the beginning of it, how it begins, the first few, maybe the first half dozen or so of these Caprices. Plough depths of quiet, sea sleep. Sky is a mirror, mirare, to gaze. We have been here a long time. Since the ice left this rock, we wander so blandly on, always thinking of some other thing. Here insert a clear picture in color of that other thing. Those stone steps on Coromandel. Aphrodite rising from her waves right here. Pale seminarians from Louvain walking in light rain. Green tomatoes growing in backyards on Crescent Street. Full moon over Gayhead. Anyhow, who wants to know? That Coromandel is the one in New Zealand, not the Indian one. Coromandel is the home of a remarkable photographer named Maggie Johnson, whose work should be better known. The piano, built of granite, strings made of beams of light, keys of clamshell and old tar from sunken hulls. Every decent instrument dares you to play. The stone is cold, cold. Talk about something else, or at least be the music that comes out. My mother came from seal stock, my father from English, something like that. My accent gives me away. I am me, after all, just a part of the weather, your weather, don't you forget. Sympathy led me here, across the Nile and onto Buzzards Bay, to the smallest town in Massachusetts, mostly an island Shakespeare remembered till his dying day because he had never seen. Only the imagined dares to last. Hopscotch on no sidewalk. Say Mass without a church, without any altar you dare to name. He rose from the piano. His lexicon needs tuning. Call the Ukrainian who comes with his forks and tongs. This book needs breathing. They all do. This guess must be wrong, and this one right. When we were children, must be meant pretend to be, as in, you must be Juliet and I must be Romeo. Would God that that is what must always mean. That we think our way through it, wake at first light, sleep a little more, wake again, or call it waking. No one will know the secret sleep that carries you through the day. Dream grass of your lawn, dream rattle of your engine. Is that rain or just the fridge? Is that piano playing by itself again? Again he held her shoulders, nuzzled her hair, whispered couplets only wives and girlfriends comprehend. She told him, that was pretty, play some more. He hoped she meant the caress, but went back to the piano to make sure. There is a certain certainty in music. You hear it, for example, while you're pretty sure it doesn't hear you. Not water. Tea, herbal, safe, not sweet. I'll talk about the tea another time. Let's see. So, what's getting on? So, what I'd like to do now is read some more recent poems. That's what I'm really interested in. These are, the next few I'll read are from this past month, November. Take the book down, open it, erase all the pages. Now you're ready to begin. Say what your hand remembered reaching for it, the tendon of your arm stretched out to that high shelf. Then write down the dust and what it said when the book came open, maybe for the first time in years. What did the dust make you remember? What foreign city, Verona, Arles, Whitby, you were so briefly in? Dust never forgets. Did you know that? That's what makes civilization possible, the dust of all the centuries we breathe in all the time. Write down carefully the feel of the binding in your lustful but respectful fingers. Hands know a lot, but are easily distracted. Keep them touching, feeling. This is literature. All the rest is sword fights, nobody killed, card games, nobody wins. Literature, it is finished, this thing you've made. You are Dante now. Put the book down. Come out and see the stars. This is called Antique Gemstone, just an imaginary one. The word lekathos is like a big urn, Greek urn. A liquid heavier than another fills her lekythos so she can lift it only when it's half empty. She set it down on the mountaintop, wondering why the weather ever bothers to change. It's so beautiful where and as it is. So many trees still have their leaves. Oh, let them shed them before the snow comes down, she prays. But to whom? Who listens to the fluid in the jar? Who breathes soft on the nape of her neck, but isn't there when she spins around? I am the beanstalk Jack climbed up. His knees squeezed as he shinnied up. All I really saw were his brown scuffed shoes. I don't understand his story, cows and magic, fraud, and somewhere up past wherever I am. Makes no sense. I grow what I grow. I know what I know. I am pure road. I don't go anywhere. I am pure theory, like a boy in the middle of the air. This is called Merkava, after that extraordinary and shimmering presence in Kabbalistic thought, the chariot. This is not a very serious Kabbalistic poem, though, but it tries to bring the chariot closer to us. Counting the chariots as they go by, I only ever get to one. A massive one that holds my eye, while all the others, if there are others, pass. It is made of that strange metal, gold that looks like silver, that warms the hand that holds it. So in a rush to hear, So in a rush of heat, the thing goes by with a sound like 1,000 people talking all at once and making sense in a room you're lucky to stand at the doorway of, but can't go in. And the wheels harvest wheat as they turn, and the horses are gone before I see them, so I never know what color they are. And the driver who holds their reins, it's like looking straight into the sun without a single word of Hebrew to protect me. But I swear there are, or must be, other chariots, the air and fire full of them, and even water shows them as their reflections, and by doing so learns how to flow. Okay. I have to make an observation or two here. I've spent a lot of time and a lot of delight working from things, writing into music, writing from pictures. And in the past couple of years, I've spent a lot of time writing from images. Photos by Susan Quasha, Charlotte Mandel, Susan Rogers, collages by Barbara Leon, paintings by Nathalie Probasti, Sherry Williams, Brian Wood, Jonathan Felshu, Olivia Baldwin, Ashley Garrett, others. So I decided just last week, it's time for me to paint myself. But since my only ingredients are words, my only material is words, I wrote a series of what are poems I'm calling acrylic series. Acrylic is easy to apply, doesn't require the skill of an oil painter, and it's quick drying. These are quick drying poems. So I wrote a few acrylic series, because I want to make pictures too. But I don't want to describe anything. God knows, Nobody has descriptive paintings anymore, they're abstract paintings. So they're not abstract poems because, alas, words don't allow abstraction, do they? We try. Anne tries very hard. I mean, Anne Gogh, and Lauterbach to a degree too, but I'm thinking of Anne Gogh, how hard she tries to get that, and I try too. And whenever you say a word, it's there. It has this terrible habit of realizing itself. So here's some of the acrylic series. They keep waiting for me. Where is Friday on a week of seed? Where do the hours go to when anyone is asleep? Yearning for the other is the chief task of the self. A bird spread at the top of the stairs, wings awkward outstretched, trying for balance, crying for love, breaks the dreamer's heart to hear. A big brown and white bird, gannet maybe, or a girl in pain. Remember? This color in the crayon box is named for you. Never be easy again, or Spain. The laurels shimmer in the Petaluma sun. The apple trees remind me of my brother I never had. We would have raised cattle and made cheese. The laurels, dark though, for all the shimmer. Glamour, an Irish word. The spell. I taste a leaf, it tastes me back. What is it about these living things that never had a mother? I really do think we were first to fall out of the air. And this is the last of the acrylic pieces, a little longer, called Mural. Can you have an acrylic mural? I guess you can. As close as we come, a marmoset sprinkling hayseed on a blur where the maps eroded. Someone does not wish to be seen. Crystal goblet in hand, ancestors on the mother's side, phantom bequests the mitochondria on Mount Carmel one time, a long time. I'm trying to make sense of why this happens. Musa, or in Sparta, Moha, muse. On the rail trail west of Olive, by foot, half overlook to see, I suppose we really are spies. Handless gender. We stand accused, voyeurs of the stars, and in the local mountains, chapels built, first mass in the wilderness, praying local gods, come join. Give trees a voice and keep their silence to yourself. When one has nothing on the mind, the truth comes out. Don't reveal your method. Studied with Glazunov and Kandinsky, pronounced in the French way. Gardner VV, a man of many towers. It's not good to talk on TV. The eyes hate to listen. Soon take vengeance. Are you afraid of monsters too? Just means, hey, look at that. Particle physics, only the half of it. The real mystery is the void. So-called particles, so-called travel through. Holy Shunyata, where the bread changes into wine and no one dies. So, I want to, one of the big things for me this year was writing a novel called Camera Obscura, literally the dark room, the dark chamber. But that word, Camera Obscura, is what is originally just a black box with a hole in it, projects the outside upside down. It's where we get our word camera from in ordinary usage. And the novel is, well, After I finished it, Charlotte found a quotation from Rilke, from his poem called Wendel, a strange, longish poem from late in his career. If any of you German people know it, Wendel, very curious. And in it he says, well along the poem, something which I would translate simply as, now the work of seeing is finished. Now do the work of the heart on the images left in you from what you've seen. And had I seen that quotation, I would not have bothered writing the 300-page novel. So, I just want to read one chapter from it. It's short. Most of the chapters are rather short. And this is chapter 66. It has a certain amount of local reference, but doesn't have to be. Let me just see how to begin it here. Okay. This is in prose. You know, novels are curious things. Someone called this autofiction. And because all novels are fictional, one way of looking at it is to say novels are 90% fiction and 100% true. Something like that. I mean, for example, there never was a real Madame Bovary, but there are 100,000 Madame Bovarys actually in the world. I mean, people so active. So here's chapter 66. It starts out in a little town in the south of France, not on the coast, but inland, in the hill country, the foothills of the Alps, in that odd part of France that goes under Switzerland. So it's south of Lake Geneva. And at the end of the valleys, you see Mont Blanc and such things standing there. There is a delicately, deliriously quivering footbridge in Morzine. It stretches across a gully in the heart of which the grand municipal swimming pool rests. Many a day I've stood on the footbridge, the French call it passerelle, which makes it even more delicate, even more quivering in the mild wind. I look down at this immense blue rectangle of the pool, set in all the green gauds of summer around it. In that great blue rectangle below me, tiny movements, whitish, pinkish, brownish, occur, which are swimmers, players, children, adults, moving. The whole picture doesn't move, but inside the picture there is movement. We have to learn to deal with that. What happens when the picture stands still, but while something inside opens, something moves? I look down. I think how lovely it is to be here in France. The breeze is blowing from the Alps nearby. Looking down at the swimmers there in that lane towards the left of the pool, the left of the picture, to see what the picture rests on. It's bigger than an Olympic pool, the whole thing, though there's an Olympic pool-sized zoned-off area in it, and there, in the fourth lane from the left, in the lane all by himself, an old gentleman, stocky, sturdy, does the backstroke slowly from one end of the pool to the other, setting the whole pool to his measure. This man is my father-in-law, a man I love dearly, a writer, and we have come to visit him and Betty, his wife, Charlotte's mother, activist, defender of the poor, here in France, in the summer, in the world of pictures, in the world of places that people go to see, because other people have gone and come back telling true or false about what is there to be seen. Travel is all about seeing, isn't it? Travel is all about confronting different pictures of reality, every moment a different one. So I watch Marvin swim placidly back and forth, and I think about the valley we're in, the valley of Morzine, once upon a time a well-known skiing depot. And I think about over the hill, and not so far in miles, but far enough in culture and even dialect, maybe 10, 15 miles away, is another hill, up another valley of the Abondance, another stream that flows parallel to this stream into the Lake of Geneva, Lac Léman. And on that hill, at this very moment, we may suppose ourselves to be listening in on a conversation between an ancient scholar of the visible and a younger Mandarin on his travels. They are John Berger, the art historian, and David Levi Strauss, the young critic and writer and poet. They are sitting in the garden of John Berger's house, nibbling, I hope, a piece of that extraordinary cheese available there and only there, the Tome d'Abondance, which Charlotte loves. You can't get it in the States. You can barely get it in France, outside the valley of the Drance d'Abondance. There they are nibbling and sipping on wine maybe, or perhaps it's too early in the day. Maybe they're having, since it's just before noon, maybe they're possibly allowing themselves a little wine after all, or something. Who knows what people drink? What do people drink? What do people say? John says, "What have you seen?" Levi, "I have seen a wife and married her." John, "That is good seeing." Levi, "She paints pictures." John, "Tell me about them." Levi, "They are often round." John, "That is very wise. Corners are dangerous. Think of Rembrandt." Levi, "Often." John, "What is in the circles?" Levi, colors, making out with each other. My wife is very playful. She likes the colors. I think she likes colors too much sometimes. John, "What could be wrong with playing with colors? The colors don't get hurt when you play with them." Levi, true. But I think my wife's fingers, Gret's fingers, actually feel the color, not the ink or the oil or the varnish or the paint. I think she feels the color itself. I think she can feel the red or blue, maybe even yellow. John, "Even I can feel yellow." Levi, "I see what you mean. Yes, we do feel colors, don't we? Feel with our skin, I mean, the touch of red." John, "We see with our skin, as you know, the eyes are a specialized portion of the skin, a skin that has developed over centuries or millennia to accommodate the around us and what it shows, the things that happen around us, the situations in which we find ourselves, the things we react to. The eyes are skin feeling things over there." Levi, "Action at a distance then." John, "Exactly so. The age-old dream of science fulfilled by art. Exactly so." I look down at the swimming pool in Morzine, hearing the friend talk to the friend over there in the garden, far away, not so far away. I can practically taste the cheese in their mouths. So I have to end the reading because that's what I should do. I have a superstition which some of you know, and it's an unfortunate superstition at the moment because I have only a slender one. I have to read at the end of every reading the most recent poem I've written, however trivial it might be, and I'm working hard at the trivial here. So here's the last poem written this morning. You have to understand that what I tell about the Romans is true. You also have to understand that the rat, our familiar rodent, did not appear in Europe till the Middle Ages, well after Roman times. The Romans had no rats, but they had mice. The Greeks were bothered by mice. There's one form of Apollo, Smintheus, is the slaughter of mice. As if you need a god to get rid of them. And here we just call Bob Steele. Rice in the rafters from a wedding in the sky. The Romans tossed pine cones at newlyweds as if they had no little mice to feed. Thank you for coming. See you next year.